Welcome to the Ellis Martin Report on Money Talk Radio. Today we're spotlighting a groundbreaking biotech innovator, Defence Therapeutics, trading on the CSE as DTC and on the OTCQB as DTCFF. Joining us is Dr. Amie Phinney, Strategy and Business Advisor at Defence Therapeutics. Dr. Phinney's career spans global science and pharma leadership, including Abbott and AbbVie. And now she's helping guide Defence Therapeutics as they advance their proprietary ACUM technology. This platform is redefining antibody conjugate ADC delivery, making powerful anti-cancer drugs more efficient, safer, and potentially able to move from second-line to first-line therapies. Let's dive into how this innovation could reshape oncology and beyond. Amie, welcome to the program. It's great to visit with you today.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Amie, you've traveled the world and you've landed on Defence Therapeutics. What has brought you to this company?
What has brought me to Defence has been my lifelong journey through science and business. And I'm very excited to be working together with Defence Therapeutics to help them build in that really exciting opportunity that I believe that they are getting ready to embark on. My journey in this industry really started when I started my undergraduate degree in studying human biology at the University of Guelph in Canada, and continued when I had the opportunity to do my graduate work at the University of Basel in Switzerland. My very first exposure to a pharmaceutical company and to the amazing pharmaceutical sciences that deliver medicines to each of us whenever we are in need. It was an amazing experience to do my PhD there under the supervision of some amazing neuroscientists and industrial scientists in the University of Basel. As I progressed my career and I advanced through different academic positions and into some postdoc positions, I really realized that I loved the business of science as much as I loved science itself. And so that really brought me to a spot where I knew I wanted to be involved in translational work. I wanted to be involved where science really is going to meet impact when it comes to drug discovery and development. And so I've had a very privileged career being able to live in Europe and the United States and now back in Canada, always participating in different activities throughout my career, which have been very rewarding, challenging.
One of the things I've noticed over the years talking with biotech companies and meeting scientists is the translation, the carryover into the business world often is not there. So you have these great technologies, amazing technologies, platform technologies in many cases that can't make it through the process of becoming viable simply because scientists really aren't trained with business skills.
Absolutely. I think that is a challenge that faces so much of the discovery world. I have a philosophy that scientific advancement needs both discovery and innovation. How I like to think about that challenge is that the act of making a discovery into an innovation really takes both the combination of science and business. And I think you're right that a lot of times that a discovery has challenges that are often could be potentially overcome if a scientist had more business acumen. In reality, the process and a discovery to an innovation. And a discovery is the act of finding and uncovering something that already exists in nature, but was previously unknown or unrecognized. But an innovation is a process of applying knowledge or discoveries to create something new or improve that delivers value, often in the form of a product and a service. When I talk to students who are just coming into the business and are trying to find their path between science and business, I always remind them that you can't have one of these things without the other. We don't usually have discovery if we don't have a drive for innovation. Those things are intimately connected. And so often, science and business are one, even at the very beginning of that part. And the challenge is that great ideas, great discoveries are not always able to become impactful innovations, I think is a multifaceted problem.
We have a great discovery here of the ACUM technology. Walk us through Defence Therapeutics ACUM technology, how it works, what makes it unique among ADC delivery platforms, and where you see its biggest advantages over existing delivery methods that may be considered competitors.
Absolutely. So I had the great pleasure really almost stumbling into learning about this technology through great networking connections, as so much happens in the business world like this. And I remember my very first introduction when Sebastian and Maxime, the scientific team at Defence, were talking me through this discovery, what they have. And I remember thinking this is something that is going to potentially change the face of ADCs and antibody-delivered therapeutics. So what I saw was a technology which can be best described as an engineered molecular tag that can modulate intercellular trafficking of antibody-delivered drugs. And so let me take a step back and explain a little bit about some of the challenges that antibody-delivered drugs face. As you and many of your listeners are probably aware, antibody-delivered drugs have been a modality that has been explored over the last 10, 15, 20 years even, about a precision delivery system. So an antibody is able to recognize a specific marker on a cell and attach to that marker. And it does so in a very precise way. Nature has given us a very beautiful and elegant system for this. Scientists have gone on to attach specific toxins, whether it's a radioligand or whether it is a chemical toxin, chemotherapy, if you will, to that antibody, and use that antibody as a delivery mechanism to a cell very specifically so that cell can be targeted with that toxin. Now, these drugs, ADCs and antibody radiotherapeutics, are amongst some of the most powerful anti-cancer drugs that the industry has seen. These are amazingly effective at killing cancer cells. The challenge that they have is that they're not very efficient at killing the cancer cells. So let me explain. If you are going to use an ADC to deliver a toxin, the analogy I like to use is it's a defense analogy, is you're going to send 100 soldiers in to an area around a cell in order to try to take that cell out, okay? Now, the antibody, it's about 50% efficient in recognizing its target. So 100 soldiers went in and 50 soldiers are going to get inside of the cell. Now, the soldiers have to actually get to the center of the cell, to the nucleus, in order to kill the cell. So those 50 soldiers that are in there have to navigate their way through the intracellular trafficking pathways of a cell and get themselves to the nucleus to be effective, to deliver that toxin. This is where the problem comes in. So out of those 50 soldiers that go in, 48 of them are going to get trapped inside of the endosome lysosomal system. Only 2 of them are going to get out and are going to get to actually drop the bomb and kill that cell off. Now, if you simply do the math, what you can understand now is that there is a lot of toxin in and around the cell that is actually not being effectively killing the cell. So what the scientific engineers that came up with ACUM have done is they've actually placed a small molecular tag, which they can add on to an ADC, an antibody, or any antibody-delivered drug. And by doing so, they actually give that antibody a little beacon to go all the way through and deliver their bomb specifically at the nucleus. So instead of sending in 100 soldiers to get 2 in, you're only going to have to send in 10 soldiers, and 2 of them are going to get in. And when you do that, you reduce the amount of secondary toxins, of toxins that are floating around in the body, the toxins that cause liver damage, the toxins that cause lung damage. Those toxins are now going to be reduced, and your efficiency, your effectiveness of that drug to kill that cell remains the same. So ACUM technology, this amazing molecular tag, which just gets hooked onto any antibody-delivered drug, is going to precisely deliver the drug toxin to the nucleus and reduce the toxic side effects that are often associated with these very powerful drugs because of this sure mathematics that means is required to get the right dose inside of the cell.
So essentially, in the Star Trek universe, you're sending probes in to highlight where to take out these cancerous cells.
Maybe I wouldn't call it a probe, but I would say that the antibody-delivered drugs or nucleoradiotides, and again, any toxin that is delivered with an antibody, it's already got a GPS system. So the antibody is the GPS system. It takes it to a cancer cell, that's for sure. What ACUM does is it actually gives laser-guided delivery inside of the cell.
Perfect. Are we mitigating the need for chemo or radiation with this treatment?
That's a broader question. My answer is I certainly hope so. And here's why. As I said earlier, antibody-delivered drugs are amongst the most effective anti-cancer drugs that are currently on the market or in development. They're very attractive to a lot of clinicians and certainly patients because it's precision medicine, right? It's really going to mostly attack the specific cell I think we are going to be able to help ADCs become first-line therapies. Here's the explanation for that. So currently there are approximately about 20 ADCs that are on the market that are available for patients to treat different kinds of cancers. Of that 20 or so ADCs, 18 or so are second-line therapy only. So here's what that means. If you are a breast cancer patient, your first line of therapy is going to be a chemotherapy or an antibody therapy, even though both of those therapies are not as effective as an ADC. But a physician will not prescribe to you an ADC as a first-line therapy because of the potential toxic side effects. Back to my analogy, it requires way too many soldiers and way too much loose toxin in order to kill the cells. So because of this high risk of toxic side effects that are associated with the large doses that are needed to be effective, the FDA and other regulatory agencies have only approved ADCs as second-line therapies. You're only going to get the most powerful drug after they've tried other things because they're worried about liver and eye and lung toxicity associated with this. Now, if we can deploy ACUM as part of that therapy, add ACUM to that ADC, we're going to be able to reduce the dose that a patient needs to be effective by 5, 10, even 50-fold. And in doing so, we are going to be able to safely deliver these powerful drugs to patients. They're going to be able to be first-line therapies. And this is something that we at Defence Therapeutics believe will be our first real impact on the industry. We're going to be able to help these second-line powerful drugs become first-line therapies. And patients who really need these very specific, precision-delivered, high-potency drugs are going to be able to receive them without risk of liver damage, heart damage, lung damage, eye damage, all the long list of side effects that are associated with ADCs.
What I'm hearing is that this is very strong IP, and your competition is probably shaking in their boots. How are you going to protect this intellectual property across the U.S., Europe, Asia Pacific, and elsewhere? So what are you doing to protect this amazing technology?
That's an excellent question, and I will give a lot of credit to Sebastian and the leadership team that have already been working diligently to put in place a picket fence type of IP strategy, which has multiple patents and is really aiming to cover as many aspects of this drug delivery platform as they can. I think the IP portfolio that they have in place that has been supported with several different agencies in the Canadian ecosystem is really a solid foundation. And all growing and striving biotech companies, this is a very active part of our strategy. All of the research and the experiments that we are doing and planning to expand on the impact, the potential impact that we see that ACUM could have in this field is being done under the eye of how are we making sure that we are protecting this and so that it can grow as an anchor company here in Canada and have impact across the US and all other countries that are in need of this type of medicine.
You were brought on as strategy and business advisor with a strong background in big pharma with firms like Abbott and AbbVie. What are you going to do to bring this company forward, and when can we see revenue?
Both excellent questions. I'm going to start with the second question first, Ellis. I'm going to say revenue is going to come within the next 12 to 18 months. That's a really big statement. I recognize that this company has the foundational technology and the growth ambition to ensure that we're going to find companies that are going to partner with us to make impact quickly. One of the most exciting things that I feel attracted me to Defence Therapeutics is we have ambitions to make novel therapeutics, but this technology at its core is going to be able to improve existing therapeutics. We are currently strategizing on how we're going to partner with ADCs that are in development, ADCs that are on the market, to able to improve their effectiveness, expand their markets, expand the access of these very powerful drugs for patients. And so I'm optimistic that the strategies that we are having in place, where we have taken a multi-tiered strategy about delivering ACUM, manufacturing ACUM, and getting it into the hands of ADC and ARC, I won't forget about that, antibody radiotherapeutics. I'm feeling confident that we are going to be able to see some revenue in the near term. Now, those answer to the second part. Going back to the first part of the question, what am I going to do as a strategist and business consultant in order to enable those goals? First and foremost, what I'm working with the senior leadership to do is to focus in on some of those strategies in which are there and ready to go. And so you've heard me refer a lot to our ADC strategy. That's our first line strategy. And we are all hands on deck right now with regards to how are we going to generate the robust data that is going to be needed in order to convince the large number of ADC manufacturers that are currently out there and the large number of ADCs in development to partner with us. So that's going to be my first goal. Sebastian and Max and the entire Defence Therapeutic team is on board with this strategy, and we are working very hard to deliver that first tier of our company's strategy.
Brilliant. That makes you a platform technology that you can blend with many of these other ADC companies in the field.
Absolutely. And it's a very exciting time to be in this field, because beyond that kind of partnership strategy, which we are going to pursue, there is the second and third strategies, which I think will be equally as important as we progress through our company strategy. The first, of course, to become a manufacturer of ACUM. This is a molecule that we would like to see to be the primary manufacturer for. So we would like to be able to deliver this to our partners. And the third, of course, is then using this technology in completely novel combinations. With all of the ADCs that are out there, or antibodies that are out there, where could we find novel plays here? And so this three-legged stool that we're building of partnerships with existing products to enhance them and expand their markets, manufacturing our core product as a delivery platform, and then third, using all of that in order to drive forward new discoveries and new innovations is such an exciting approach for a company like this.
On that note, Amie, I'd like to thank you for joining us today on Money Talk Radio and the Ellis Martin Report. It's certainly a great pleasure to speak with you, and we're not done, so you've got to come back and visit with us again.
I look forward to it. I have no doubts that this company is going to be making great strides in the very near future. If you will allow me, I'd be very excited to share our progress with you as it comes.
You've been listening to my conversation with Dr. Amie Phinney of Defence Therapeutics, trading on the CSE as DTC and in the U.S. on the OTCQB as DTCFF. Defence Therapeutics is rapidly advancing its ACUM technology, building partnerships, securing IP, and positioning itself as a platform company with near-term revenue potential. With the ability to enhance existing therapeutics and create new ones, they are at the forefront of precision medicine. Visit their website, defencetherapeutics.com. For Money Talk Radio and the Ellis Martin Report, I'm Ellis Martin.